Hello everyone, I'm Bob Phipps with the Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Association. Today's FPAC show is being taped in front of the new Law Enforcement Center. And with me today is Sheriff Frank Bell and Chief Tom Baker. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And I thought maybe, Tom, you've been around a while. We ought to reminisce a little bit about how many different places you've worked for the city on the police department. And I can remember the old police station down on South 2nd.
Yeah, that's where I started. The size of the police station there is about the size of the lobby we have at this time.
And from there, I believe you moved up to the present facility where you just moved from.
Yeah, we moved to 2nd and Briggs in December of '72.
And at that time, you thought what? That'd be the last place you'd have the facility?
I thought this was the epitome of law enforcement centers. The jail met all the state specs. We had plenty of room. No one could imagine ever needing anything else.
Well then, if my notes serve me right, in 1995, the Jefferson County Service Agency examined the jail conditions, and we started having some problems with the state jail inspector.
That's correct. Actually, the project started in about 1993 in the early conversation stages, but in '95, some official action began.
And originally, the initial cost estimate given was $2.8 million for a 32-bed facility?
I think that's correct, but I don't believe that included the law enforcement portion of the building. That was strictly the jail function.
And then in '98 is when the property here was purchased?
Yes, that sounds to be the right time.
What was the jail task force committee, Sheriff?
They performed a very valuable function because they helped convince the community that we needed the project, and they were very instrumental in getting the bond issue passed so that this became a reality.
And they did that, and how are we paying for the jail?
The jail is the entire complex is being paid for with the 1 penny sales tax that's currently in place in Jefferson County.
And better known as the local option tax, which should generate approximately $1 million annually for the law enforcement center. So that means the total cost of the project now is at what amount?
Well, as far as I know, it's still about $250,000 under budget, so I think it's real close to $4 million, but I think it's slightly under that.
And with approximately $1 million coming in each year, not all that goes to, let's see, does all of that go to the paying off of the facility?
It's divided up. The city and each of the small cities in the county receive a small portion of that, and like 80% of it actually goes to retire the debt.
What's the projected time for this to be paid off?
I think it's been shortened. Originally it was 10 years, and I think the income has been a little greater than they anticipated. So I believe right now that it's looking at 7 or 8 years.
Okay. Chief Baker, how are the facilities so far? Your office and the other offices for your side?
It's fantastic. My office is 3 times the size I had, and I have room to function now instead of pile stuff in corners.
And I know that we're going to be taking a look at that in just a minute, so we'll see what your office is really like. And in fact, we're going to go inside and take a tour of the entire facility, so we'll be back in just a minute. We've moved inside to the new law enforcement center here in Fairfield, and Chief Baker is with me, and we're going to take a little tour of this side of the building, which is the police department. Right. And on the other side is a sheriff's department, which is the same as your side.
Yeah, all the offices are basically the same.
Okay, why don't we take a tour? And I think we'll make the first stop in your office, Tom. Now this is a little bit larger than your other office.
It's about 3 times larger. I've never had this much filing space and places to put stuff before.
Well, I notice one thing that's different. We have a lot of computers in this new building. Can you tell us a little bit about the computer system?
In the old building, we had 2 workstations that was hooked up to an AS400. And in this building, we have managed to network everything together to allow each officer that's on duty to have a workstation that is hooked into the AS400. Plus, they have the capability of doing reports on the PCs and saving them in their own files, or putting them on a disk and saving them elsewhere. And the officers, most of them are more comfortable using the PCs than they were the old AS400. But we are still using the IBM 400 for our mainframe computer. We're just using these as our workstations and terminals.
And I believe you mentioned that you're going to be able to network within the building to all the computers?
Every computer in here will be tied into a server, one main server in the building.
And that will be an advantage for everybody?
Everybody will have access to the same files.
Okay. Well, you have a very nice office here. I hope you enjoy it.
Oh, I enjoy it already. One thing we have in this building that I forgot to mention to you earlier is we now have individual complaint rooms for people coming in that want to file complaints. We no longer have to have them into one of the offices where the other officers are working, and we can segregate complainants into a separate room, so we cut down on the friction in some cases.
All right. Well, let's go take a look at the next office, which is the squad room, right?
Yes, the squad room is where the officers who are on duty will perform their basic daily work and have access to files and references and stuff in here. There will be 2 computers in here, but there's room for 8 officers to function out of here without interfering with each other.
And we mentioned there's usually 4 on duty at a time.
There's 2 officers and a sergeant on duty on each shift. So there would be, during a 24-hour period, there would be 4 patrol officers and 2 sergeants on duty during the 24 hours. This is the sergeant's office. 2 sergeants share a desk and terminal since they're not on duty at the same time, so they don't interfere with each other. This is our files and records room. We have a fax, a copier, and all our case files are kept here in one central location for all officers to have access to, which we have never been able to accomplish before.
Well, Chief, where are we now?
We are entering the men's locker room area. We provide lockers for all the officers. Some of them like to change the street clothes here, and they keep personal stuff like extra coats, raincoats, and we have a shower facility and a bathroom here if they want to work out and shower afterwards or before work.
Well, now, explain this room to me.
Well, this is our physical conditioning room. Last year, the legislature passed law authorizing the municipal fire and police to set minimum physical standards for the officers to maintain pursuant to their retirement. And I have no idea what that's going to entail, but several officers are interested in staying in good condition anyhow, so we are providing this for their benefit, and it should help the officers a lot in some of the functions they have to do.
And how did you obtain all this equipment? Was this...
Part of it was donated, part of it belongs to the individual officers that brought it in to use here.
Okay, very nice facility. And we're going to move on down the hallway to what?
This is the women's locker room. Right now it's not heavily used since we only have 1 female officer, but the dispatchers can use this too if they so desire. This weight room, locker room, everything is available to all the employees in the building.
Well, now we've moved into the nerve center of the law enforcement center, and why don't you both kind of describe what we have in here in the radio room?
We have something that's beyond my comprehension because we got a whole new radio system in. That's an upgrade from our old system that's, what was it, 15 years old?
It would have been 15.
15 years old. So we decided with the new building that we would upgrade since we were going to have to move everything anyhow. So I haven't even had the opportunity to watch it in operation.
Well, let's walk over here at the other station, and maybe, Frank, would you explain the difference in the systems?
I guess I would be somewhat at a loss for words like Tom. Tammy can explain the way the new system operates, but basically what it did was eliminate the old push-button radio controls and put them on a computer screen, so now everything's mouse selected instead of just a push button.
And then the hardware for the equipment is all new, too?
Some of the hardware was, but a lot of it is brought over from the old equipment. So the mechanical part of it is transferred, and the controls are new and electronic.
Do you still use the antenna on the over at the courthouse, or?
That's correct. This is hardwired from here to that antenna.
This is a very nice room, and a lot more room than at the old station.
Certainly, and it's a lot easier to control the temperature in here. That was one of the problems before. The equipment makes so much heat that you couldn't control the temperature in that small room, and this helps spread it out and makes it much easier.
Chief, I think you were saying earlier about the procedure that the law enforcement center will be closing at 5 o'clock. You might explain that.
The front door will be locked at 5 o'clock, and the only way that people can get into the lobby is by getting on the intercom and having the dispatcher throw a switch that buzzes them in and allows them to enter the lobby. Okay. No one can go into either side of the law enforcement center out of the lobby unless they are accompanied by an officer or the dispatcher buzzes them through if they're service personnel.
Okay. Well, we'll be right back in a minute and take a look at the new jail itself. Well, we've moved into the jail area, and I have a special guest with me right now, Gordon Plepla. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Good
Great
to see you
be
again,
back.
Gordon. Gordon, you actually had a hand in designing this facility, isn't that correct?
That's correct. I wrote the facility program, which is the instruction manual, I guess, to the architect as to how we want the jail to look and how we want it to operate.
Can you give us a few ideas on what it takes to design a facility like this today? What is required by law and that type of thing?
We have Iowa jail standards. This particular facility meets those standards. We also meet the optional American Corrections Association standards for small adult local detention facilities. And the reason we do that is because our experience has been that with state jail standards, they have a tendency to drift towards the national standards. And we thought it would be better to go ahead and meet those standards so that when the Iowa standards got there, we wouldn't be doing a lot of remodeling and that type of thing for a brand new facility. Also, we have fire codes. You'll notice that all the jail cells are sprinkled, which is not the case in the old jail. We have the Americans with Disabilities Act requirements. We have requirements on inmate classification based on crimes and pretrial versus sentence, those kinds of issues, male and female. We have an exercise area which is enclosed so that the public doesn't have to see the inmates exercising and the yelling back and forth, et cetera, like we had up at the old facility. And we have state-of-the-art locking systems so that we can operate this thing with less staff on it per inmate to staff ratio than we would if we had everything with a key. Now, because the facility is designed to meet the new fire codes, all of the locks do have a key override, and we have a rather large generator out back that will handle it when the power goes down.
Gordon, I just happen to think that back in 1972, we designed the the jail that we're moving out of.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think somebody at that time said, this is really state-of-the-art. This is what we're going to need. And I don't remember who said that for sure.
Now, I know you don't remember who said that. I said that. And boy, times change. You know, most people feel lucky if they get to do one in a community. I've got to do two. Hopefully this is it. The the other side of that, Bob, is that we didn't have standards back then. Iowa did not have standards, and standards came as a result of a consent decree and the Iowa Department of Corrections and the state legislature. Do we need standards? I think so, because I think it really helps the county because there are official ground rules, so to speak, and when the lawsuits come, as they always do, we can go to the standards and say, this is what the standards say and this is what we're doing. The other thing that's happened is that over the last 12 years, well, about 12 years ago, the inmate population nationally just mushroomed because of all the drug arrests, changes in the laws, and what have you. And then about the last 2 years, the inmate population nationally has been leveling off. In Iowa, that has not been the case. Iowa's had 3 major changes in legislation. One was the drunk driving statute 3 or 4 years ago. Brought it down to, was it 1.0, I believe? The second was the domestic abuse law, which I guess in pretty simple layman's terms meant that if there's a domestic fight, somebody goes to jail. And then the third one was a total surprise. It was an administrative decision by the Judicial Department, the Iowa court system, that basically changed the bond schedule. And they brought it up to date. So a simple misdemeanor that used to require a $100 bond is now $320, as I understand it. So we have seen that as a major influence in inmate populations. What's around the corner? We don't know. I read in the paper last night where President Clinton has signed a even more restrictive drunk driving legislation at the state or national level, and if the state of Iowa doesn't comply, they lose a bunch of federal highway funds. So I don't know. I don't know where this is going. Hopefully this will be it. Now, having said that, we were a little smarter this time. We did build in for expansion, so we can expand this facility, whereas we could not expand the old one. And as we go through the facility, I'll show you some of the places where we can do that.
Okay. Before we take that little tour, I'd like for you to explain the control board here to our audience.
This is the master control. Understand that the control room in a jail is the heart and soul of the jail. I'm sorry. This has its own security system. It has its own environmental system, heating and air conditioning. They have their own bathroom. This is the heart of the facility. We don't ever want an inmate in here because
All they can do is
they just push the buttons and everybody's out of here. So
Well, how does this panel work?
the panel is, I don't know whether your cameraman can get a shot of it. We don't want him to dwell too long on it, but as you can see here, this is basically a blueprint of the entire facility. And it has red lights which indicate that the doors are open. The yellow lights are the intercoms. And every station, every door has an intercom. So as we're moving inmates through, they're interlocked, and then the control room person will open the door and we'll observe them. You'll notice this is a racetrack design so that staff can observe people moving throughout the facility and can also observe what's going on. This facility can be run with 3 people during the day and probably 4 at night. And the reason for that is the great visibility that the control room has. This person that is stationed in here is the backup for the people that are actually on the floor.
Well, Gordon, this is going to be quite a change for the jail staff, considering the fact that they could house not even half the number that you're going to have out here.
Yep.
What's the adjustment going to be like for them?
It's going to be tough. We're working through that today. That's one of the issues that, one of our training issues that I'm working with them on now. We're talking about different operational philosophies, classification versus the way we used to do it, and one-on-one interaction with inmates as opposed to having the barrier. We encourage staff to be inside the day rooms with the inmates whenever possible. We believe that by doing that, we will stop problems before they start. And the only place that, of course, doesn't work is in maximum security, and we'll talk about that as we go down through the tour. But because of this layout, this racetrack design, we're able to separate inmates, male from female, in their various activities. We're also able to really spend a lot of time observing what's going on, whereas before, you had to look around corners and through little windows.
Well, I think what we're going to do next is go to the booking area.
Okay.
And we'll just follow through on what you do as you book someone in.
Okay, let's
All
do
right.
that.
Well, Gordon, we're on the outside, on the west side of the new jail facility, and I see two overhead doors here. What's this for?
Okay, this is where the inmate arrives with the deputy or the officer. The dispatch will open the door. The vehicle will go in, the door will close, and when the doors close, then the other door can be opened. They're on an interlock system, so the inmate can't get out. This door here is also the one where the work release inmates return to jail after they've been at work. We'll go on inside and we can...
Okay. Well, now we're inside.
This is the booking area. You can see we're still getting organized with...
Still have a few tools around.
Tools around and last minute stuff. The inmate would come in here. If he is unruly, he would go into one of the two holding cells or the drunk cell, whatever. If he's not, he would be asked to sit on the bench until they're ready for him. You can see we have handcuff rings that if we have more than one, we can cuff him to the bench. Okay, this area here is work release. So when the inmate comes back from his work release or from his work day, he would come in here, he would dress out, they would search him, and then he would go into work release. And you'll notice this area is totally away from the rest of the housing unit. Work release inmates, by peer pressure or by desire, become contraband mules. And so we want to keep them down here away from the rest of the housing unit so they're not bringing stuff in. So that's what happens here.
How many beds do we have in the work release?
6.
6 beds.
It's a dormitory unit. It's minimum security. Okay, the booking intake rover is back here. The inmate is here. The officer is here. They do the paperwork, and then the intake rover takes possession of the inmate, and we go into search. Okay, this is where the inmate is photographed. We have a shower. They're searched and showered.
Now, is that for anyone that's being
Anyone,
put in
everyone,
the facility?
everyone. This is where we check them for contraband and all that stuff. Then they come in here, and they're issued, I don't have a key, the uniforms, towels, linens, washcloths, that kind of thing. And then they're taken back out to the intake area. Watch out behind you. And now we're ready to take them to their cell classification.
Now, explain the classifications to us.
Classification is there's two kinds of classification. The first is just the regular male from female. That's a separation issue as opposed to classification issue. You can't have them together. The classification, we use what they call objective jail classification, which was developed by the National Institute of Corrections about 10, 15 years ago. And it identifies it's more of a risk assessment as to what inmates might be violent versus what inmates aren't. Our experience has been nationally that 10% of the inmate population needs to be in maximum security. And so when we design a jail, we design it with that in mind. There's no point in overbuilding or over-designing a facility that doesn't need to be because it just costs more. So most of the inmates that will be coming in here will be people that are medium to minimum security, and they'll go in general population. And that would be typically somebody that is check charge, somebody that has
Shoplifting.
had shoplifting, theft, those kinds of issues, not violent crimes. Now, you know, we got the guy that would commit a murder and cut up the body or something like that and stuff him in a bag. Well, that person goes to maximum security, no questions asked. That's just the way it is. So, and you'll see the difference. We'll show, you know, as we go through, you see the difference in the security levels and why we do it this way, because it's a lot cheaper.
Okay, so you've booked the person.
So the guy's booked in, he's ready to go back. The rover would come up here now and pick up the inmate from the intake rover, and we go back this way.
Okay, Gordon, we've moved back into another part of the new jail. What is this?
This is the female general population unit. It's a 4-bed unit, 70 square feet, well, 73 square feet per cell. This is where the inmates will be during the daytime. One of the features that we've done here, the state standards require that we have natural light. And so instead of putting windows in each cell, which is pretty expensive, we go with a skylight, which provides the same amount of light, and we save all the windows and cut our costs that way. They will be out of the cells during the day. They will be locked out of the cells during the day. They will have 10 minutes each hour to be able to go in and get stuff that they want and then come out. If for some reason they decide they want to stay in, they'll be locked in for that hour. It's their call. We don't care. Telephone, it's a collect call system. You call out and it's an automatic collect call, and that money goes into the commissary account, so the taxpayers aren't paying for commissary. We have drinking fountain, which is required by law. We also offer a hot water dispenser so that we can sell them soup or hot chocolate or whatever at the commissary, again, at their expense, not the county's. And this is how they take care of it. We don't sell them pop. We do, we'll sell them soup or whatever, that kind of thing. Okay, this is the shower. You'll notice we have a shower curtain that rips away so that we don't have anybody hanging themselves. And it's all on Velcro, and sure glad we didn't have to do that take more than once. I'll put it back later. You notice with the shower curtain, we can see the feet and we can see the head, and that's important. This is a typical cell. We use porcelain in medium and minimum security. This is where classification pays off. This is about a $250 sink. Same for the toilet. In maximum security, this is all stainless steel, and we're talking about $2,500. Have a table, which is required by state law. We have a bunk, and typically we give them an Army surplus blanket. They get an Army surplus rack sheet, and they get a pillowcase, and I hate the pillows. This is what the pillow looks like. It's not fancy.
Comfortable.
It's not what you get at home. It's good old staff check vinyl, and that's it.
No pictures on the wall.
No pictures on the wall. The hooks are set up. This is for their toilet items, their soap, toothbrush, toothpaste. These hooks are friction hooks, so they can't hang themselves. Anything would fall off.
Okay.
Flush mounted toilet. And, papers in the wall. We don't give them anything no weapons.
Okay, and from here, we're going to go out and take a look at the men's general population.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Gordon, now
All
we're...
right, now we're in female max, maximum security. This cell, as you can see, here's our high dollar toilet, stainless steel. The cell is pretty much the same. The difference, of course, is in the door. In the door, we have a food pass so that we don't have to come in with the inmate. We can bring the food through the door. It's if this were not, this is a precast wall, so it's solid. If this were a block wall, every core would be filled with concrete and rebar. So, in a maximum security setting, we don't do that in medium or minimum. And this is the day room. Such as it is, it's required by state law. You'll see these doors everywhere. This is the plumbing chase. Gives us access to all the plumbing in each cell. You'll see these throughout the facility. Again, collect call, telephone. That's where you eat your meal if you're in the day room, or there. This is it.
Okay, not very big.
No, not very big at all.
This is for one person?
One person, maximum security.
Okay. All right.
This is probably one of the most expensive cells in the building because of its size.
Okay, and next we're going to go to
Next we're going to male general pop.
Well, Gordon, we moved into a room that's, I don't know how to explain it. What
Well,
is it?
it's a combination of things. It's the exercise area. It's also the evacuation point in the event of a fire. Or holding a staging area, and it's also our expansion. If we have to, I guess we're going to see how that works.
Yeah.
This room is an indoor-outdoor exercise area, and as you can see, the sheriff just opened the door, so it now becomes an outdoor exercise area.
So this meets the code as far as they don't have to actually be outside the building.
And what we've done, this is an innovation that we found years ago down in Kansas. Basically what it does, it reduces the size required in half because you don't have to have two rooms. You just have an indoor and outdoor, it's all one. So the state signed off on it, they've allowed us to do it. So we've been able to, this is our standard design.
I also noticed a basketball hoop.
That's right. They're allowed to shoot baskets. There's no competition. As soon as they try to do that, they're out of here. Exercise is, it's kind of hard to explain it. Under the law, it's a right, but it's also a privilege. And you wonder how that works. We're required to give them exercise twice a week for, I believe it's 40 minutes. Now, we can do that with 3 or 4 people in here as a privilege, but if it becomes in a situation where they can't get along or they abuse it, then we will bring them out maybe at 2 o'clock in the morning, one at a time, and give them their 40 minutes, and they can walk around here and do whatever they want.
I noticed the basketball hoop's a little high.
Yes, it is, and that's because we don't want anybody dunking baskets or anything like that, or hanging from them or getting hurt. And it's, like I said, that part of this is a privilege. We don't have to give them a basketball, but it's something that, remember that whenever you give an inmate a privilege, it's something you can take away as a disciplinary thing, and that makes it easier to run a jail.
Okay, well, from the exercise.
Also, the plumbing is already in the floor. This is our expansion area. All we got to do is cut the floor and build our cells, and we're in business.
For approximately how many more cells?
I think it's 5 more people.
Okay.
Or we could make it a dormitory for 6 or 8, depending on what configuration they want.
Are dormitories allowed anymore?
Yes, dormitories are allowed. Dormitories, in fact, the state of Iowa just recently changed the ratios because dormitories are a lot cheaper and they're allowing us to do more of that. But I prefer to use the single cells because of the classification and segregation ability, and it just makes it a lot easier. The more staff, the more dormitories you have, the more staff you have to have.
Okay, well, let's go take a look at that general population. Okay. Well, Gordon, we've just come through one door and we're standing in a hallway or a corridor. What is this?
This is a secure corridor into the medium security general population area for men.
And how do we get there?
Well, we go through this door right here.
If the sheriff knows how to open it.
The sheriff knows how to open it. He's been doing a good job so far. You don't want to make the sheriff mad. Okay. This is a 16-bed.
Oh, I don't like that sound.
Yeah. it gets kind of unnerving. This is 16-bed dormitory, or medium security unit. Just like the female unit, the inmates will be locked out of their cells during the day. We have G1E.
Seems pretty chilly in here.
Yeah, they've got it cooled down. It was really hot in here earlier. There we go. You get 16, 17 inmates in here, it won't be chilly. Okay, this is a typical cell. It's just like the one that we saw before.
Seems a little smaller.
Well, they're all 73 square feet,
Okay.
except for the handicapped ones, which are 85, I believe. State standards require 70 square feet as a minimum, and these are 3 square feet bigger, and the reason for that is not because we're trying to be nice to inmates, it's because that's the way the design lays out. And, you know, I can't ever get below that, but if I can get within 10% of what the standard requires on the upside of it, I'm happy. And Roddy did a good job with that. He got it down to 3 square feet, so we're okay. Don't forget, we have the plumbing behind here, we have all those other issues to deal with, and that, the overall thing sometimes determines what the square footage is.
Okay, out in the area outside the cell is for the inmates to come out.
This is where they spend
During
their
the day.
day, and they eat here, they play cards here, they, this is their space during the daytime. We will have a television in here, which is controlled by the control room. Television is paid for by the commissary account, it's not paid for by the taxpayers. I don't know whether we're going with cable or whether we're going with a dish, but it will be very limited in terms of what they're viewing. I mean, it's not like they're gonna have Cinemax or that kind of stuff.
How many, do you know how many square footage you have in here, approximately?
It should be pretty close to 45 square feet per inmate. I haven't got it, I didn't measure it. Jail inspector came in and he measured everything, and I guess we make it.
All right,
But-
down at this end, do we have,
We have a handicapped-accessible cell, it's G1H.
and what's different about this cell from?
Well,
the
it's
other?
bigger. And it has,
About the same basics, but just a little bit better.
yeah, it's bigger, and it has we've got the stuff for handicapped people. We have the wheelchair radius that you can turn around in here. We have the grab bars. I'm not really excited about these. This is where you have a conflict between legal requirements and operational issues. One could argue that this is a suicide bar. On the other side of it, somebody that is handicapped accessible, I'm required to have this in here. We're looking for a better option, but as of right now, we haven't got one. We have to give them access to this kind of stuff, but yet we also have to, we have that other issue of somebody trying to hang themselves, they'll do it.
Okay, one more area we haven't visited on the men's side. I believe there's a maximum security
Yes, sir.
over here,
Okay.
which is a little bit more extensive than the other side.
Yeah, we also have a bathroom out here in the day room, and the shower, just like the one that we had there. I noticed that I can't see their feet, which bothers me. We're gonna have to cut that down. But this is what a typical shower looks like.
Not much.
Not much. There's nothing fancy in this building. Not supposed to be. But it's all security stuff. And that's high dollar equipment.
Okay, it looks like we have to go back out through the other door, and we're gonna
We
go,
have the drinking fountain with a the hot water dispenser. The TVs aren't in yet.
They'll be on the wall someplace.
Yeah, I forget where they. And our they go right there. Our collect call phones for the inmates. We've come up with something new since we designed this jail that's starting to take hold, and that's video visitation, where they actually visit from in here and they never leave the housing unit, but we didn't do that here.
Okay, well, let's go to the maximum security. Okay, we've entered the maximum security area for the male population.
Right.
This is a little bit bigger, Gordon.
It's a little bigger. It's a much more secure area.
It houses about 3 people.
3. Tables are heavier gauged. All the doors, you'll notice, have food passes so that we feed through here, but we also, before we remove an inmate, we make them back up, put their hands through here, we'll handcuff them, and then we'll take them from there, have them walk over to their bunk. They'll kneel on their bunk like this, and they'll be shackled on their feet, and then we will escort them out of the cell. Here again, we have $2,500 toilets. It's a heavier gauge bunk, same surplus blankets. This is it. No frills, no nothing. TV is there as a privilege. You even look cross-eyed at one of these people and it goes off.
Do they come out here during the day?
They're allowed, depends on their status. We can lock them down for 23 hours per day. And most of the times that's what happens when you're maximum security. If you behave yourself, but you're a maximum security risk, they may let you out 4 or 5 hours a day. But most of your time in this unit is cell time. And that 1 hour a day includes shower.
Okay, from here, what's left?
Here we're going down to multipurpose and then to visitation.
Okay. Okay, Gordon,
Okay,
what's this room?
This is our multipurpose room. Inmates, this room will be used for church services, for counseling, for AA, NA, whatever, programming, GEDs, that kind of stuff. And it's also the waiting area for our medical room. It's our intent at some point to have a physician come out here, so we don't have to haul inmates downtown to the doctor's office. It's a regular exam room, with supplies, small bathroom, with a handicap device.
At this point, you don't have a doctor
I'm not sure where that's at.
lined up?
I don't know, Bob. I know they were working on that. We just got into town yesterday, and I'm not sure if they've got that accomplished, but I know that's something they will be doing.
Okay, we moved into the visitation area, and this is completely different than the old facility.
Mm-hmm. This is designed in such a way that the inmates come in off a secure area. They have 4 slots. The public comes in off the lobby. There is no contact. That's a bulletproof glass. They use a telephone as their communication device. The one on the end has the swivel stool. That's in case we have a handicapped inmate. And I believe they get about 15 minutes visitation per week. I'm not sure exactly the number, but this is it. Okay. The one across the hall, I'll show you that one. That's we get an SS2, please. This cell is what they call the special status cell. We missed it. This is the most expensive cell in the building.
And why is that?
It is maximum security. It is the suicide cell, and it is also for people that are ill and injured that have contagious diseases such as hepatitis and that kind of thing. It has a negative air pressure all the time. And per square foot, it's the most expensive space in the building. But we're seeing more and more people, because of needle use and all this other stuff with hepatitis and the other blood or airborne pathogens and viruses and that kind of stuff. So this is where they come.
If need be, could this be used for overflow?
Absolutely. This is also, it's maximum security. It's just as maximum as any of the others, the male max or the female max. And most of the time, this cell will be used for people that are either suicidal or overflow for maximum security.
Okay. Frank, we're right back in the control room again, and we've had the tour. We want to thank you very much for allowing us to come out and tape this today, you and Chief Baker.
Not a problem. We're more than happy for the public to see where the project is at and
Where their money's going.
That's right, absolutely. They're paying for this project, and we got a mighty fine facility.
Now, what's the anticipated schedule coming up for moving in the inmates?
The inmates are planned to be transferred out here on the 31st day of this month, so it's a week from yesterday.
And Gordon, the designer of this thing, it's going to last forever. No, no, you said that before.
I said that before, yeah.
No, we would like to thank you, Gordon. I'm glad you were here today to be able to give us the tour of the jail facility, and I hope this will be it for a long time.
Me too. This is, I think we got it right this time.
Good. Well, that's about wraps up this show, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in on FPAC, and we'll see you the next time.